are doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host Sam Dark, and welcome to this living room, I guess, of Automotive, where we get the opportunity to talk, to learn, to grow, to challenge each other. You've made an intentional decision to be here on this November 3rd, the first Monday in the month. Let's jump into our news today. First up, the United States and China are reportedly inching toward an agreement that could restart some chip exports and ease the strain on automakers bracing for another shortage. After last week's meeting between President Trump and China's President Xi, trade officials on both sides began talks to defuse the standoff over Nexperia, the Dutch-based Chinese-owned chip maker caught in the middle of it all. According to CNBC, the White House may soon announce that limited shipments could resume, while China's Commerce Ministry says it's considering exemptions for some exports to stabilize supply chains. But so far, nothing's finalized, and everyone's choosing their words very carefully. Automakers are watching closely. Honda has already slowed production in its Mexico and the U.S., while Nissan and Mercedes warn they're running short on chips. Bottom line, if the talks hold, this could keep the current disruption from spiraling into a full-blown crisis. But for now, it's still a fragile situation and further proof how challenging our single-source global economy is, depending on just one or two sources for those tech chips. Next up today, according to TransUnion, auto loan originations grew just over 5.2% year over year in the third quarter. That's a healthy rebound, powered by lower interest rates and steadier inventory levels. A big driver was EV leasing. Nearly 60% of new EV loans last quarter were leases, as buyers rushed to take advantage of the federal tax credit before it expired. But even as volume grows, affordability is still under strain. Average new car payments are up $20 from last year to $769 a month, and used car payments are rising too, showing just how sticky vehicle prices have been. The real story here is a divided market. Prime and super prime buyers are holding the line, while subprime borrowers are stretched thin. Delinquencies aren't spiking, but they're still sitting well above pre-pandemic norms, and that's keeping lenders very cautious. Zooming out, the financing landscape looks stable, not soft. Interest rates are holding steady. Credit unions are back in the game, and demand isn't falling off. But the smartest dealers are using this window to tighten processes, deepen lender relationships, and help buyers stay in the game as costs keep creeping up. We here at the Ziegler Auto Group ourselves have dug into the lender relationships, choosing less and deciding to go deeper rather than broad and narrow. But that's just my take. Next up today, the race toward autonomy is shifting into high gear as more legacy automakers move to lock down their place in the self-driving future. General Motors says it'll launch an eyes-off, hands-free system by 2028. Stellantis is teaming up with Uber and NVIDIA to expand its autonomous mobility program. Mercedes-Benz is working with NVIDIA too, aiming for Level 4-ready vehicles. And Volkswagen plans to roll out its ID. Buzz Robotaxis on Uber's platform is in Los Angeles next year. But Goldman Sachs says the question isn't if the technology works anymore, it's how fast it can scale. Ride-hailing margins are thin. Scaling robotaxis is expensive. Automakers are still burning cash on EVs. Essentially, the EV market is loaded with opportunity, but it's not guaranteed gold. Success will come down to capital discipline, smart partnerships, and sustainable growth models. And I mentioned after having attended F1 in Austin, I was astonished to see the number of robotaxis and autonomous vehicles flooding their streets. Between the robotaxi and even Tesla with a huge tower on top, it is clear that their future is coming fast. Ford, next up, and finally up today, Ford's recall troubles just keep stacking up. The automaker issued 5 new campaigns last week, covering everything from Broncos and F-150s to Explorers and Lincolns. The recalls touch almost 475,000 of vehicles for issues ranging from seatbelts and moonroof clips to windshield defects and light bar repairs. None are catastrophic, depending on how you define catastrophic, but the sheer volume underscores how widespread Ford's quality headaches have become, especially as warranty costs keep rising. For dealers, though, this also means a surge of factory-paid work heading into the winter months. And many of these fixes are simple, the kind of jobs mobile service vans can handle in a driveway or at a workplace. That frees up bays for higher margin customer pay work. And that is a wrap on today's industry news. Yuli, welcome back. It's Monday.
I love a Monday.
It is Monday. And for all of our audience joining us via the live stream, we are live, as always, across all CDG social media platforms. Post your comments into the field. We'd love to bring them into today's show. It enriches everything we do. And Yuli, can I share a little something personal that's cool? I mentioned the Auto Group, Ziegler Auto Group, where I'm COO here. Tomorrow, you may remember, this is our 50th anniversary year, which is astonishing. 50 years selling cars in Western Michigan, the Chicagoland, and elsewhere through the Midwest. And tomorrow, Ford Motor Company is meeting at location 01, Lowell, Michigan. Do you know where Lowell, Michigan is, Yuli? Have you ever seen Lowell, Michigan?
No.
They're meeting at Lowell, Michigan to celebrate the 50 years ago that Harold Ziegler, as then the youngest Ford dealer in the entire country at 20 some odd years old, he decided to go into business as a Ford dealer, which today seemed like the smartest bet anybody could have ever made. But I would imagine as a 20-something-year-old, it must have been terrifying to bet the farm, bet the family, bet your house, whatever, small assets you had at that point on a future in automotive. And it's paid off, having gone from one location now to 41 location. Get this, watch this. Having gone from Ford to Ferrari. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Ford to Ferrari, and having it pay off with the latest acquisition of a Ferrari store in the Chicagoland. So props to Harold Ziegler, to Aaron Ziegler, to the entire Ziegler Auto Group, and it'll be fun to celebrate with Ford. And guess what? I'm going to ask him. I'm going to say, what's up with the recall stuff? Because I'm tired of reading the news about recalls. I want it done, Yuli. So maybe you can give me another good question for him. All right, let's dive into today's show because we have got an amazing show coming up today. First up today, President and CEO of Virginia-based Carter Myers Automotive, Liza Borches. Liza, welcome to the show.
Hello, Sam. So I was just listening to your story, and we started as a Ford dealership. My great father, when he was 24 years old, started as a Ford dealer in Petersburg, Virginia, 101 years ago.
That is amazing. Wow. Well, you know what? So they must have known each other. There must have been some overlap there. But Liza, what are the odds of lasting 100 years in today's business world? That's astonishing.
When we were celebrating our 100th anniversary last year, my COO went and did some research, and I think it was only like 1,000 companies in the United States that were 100 years old. Yes. So you think that the number of companies out there, and certainly the ones that have come and gone during that time, the percentage has got to be pretty small. They say only about 3% of companies make it to the fourth generation, and it takes about that long to be 100 years old on average. So maybe that's the number.
So, Liza, I have a question. And so we're going to ask you the question we ask everybody, which is how's biz? But before we get into that, what is the weight of that being, what are you now, fourth generation? What does the weight feel like to you to continue the legacy that he started all those years ago?
Sam, I'm hopeful that the audio on your end sounds good because it's a little tough on my side. You were breaking up.
Oh, no. Okay.
I'm just not sure which side it's on, but
okay.
As far as much better now, the weight of being the fourth generation. There are some days where that is huge, but most of the time it is just a feeling of being blessed. I tell many people I feel that I am one of the luckiest people to wake up every single morning, that I was given this opportunity to be a fourth generation. So yes, while I feel a lot of pressure to make sure that the 1,300 families in our organization who count on us to make good decisions are going to have a bright future ahead, I more often just feel extremely fortunate to have this opportunity.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about your organization is different because today in 2025, not only was the organization begun all those generations ago, but it's employee owned. What does that mean to be employee owned, and why did you do that many years ago?
So actually, it was really before my time. I was only about 4 years old when we became employee owned back in 1979. But my grandfather actually started with the concept in the late 40s when it was truly unheard of to have a profit sharing plan in a car dealership.
Yeah.
It evolved over the years. It turned into technically an ESOP where we were sharing ownership in 1979. But even from 1979 till I would say in the early 2000s or even 2010, it was more of a retirement plan for our associates than it was a true mentality within our company of everybody being an owner. And I had been back with the company about 5 years at that time. And my dad and I were starting to talk about, what does the future look like? Are we going to grow, or are we just going to be a 3 dealership group here in Virginia? And it really hit me one day when I was talking to a potential dealer who was looking to maybe sell a store about what it meant to have employee ownership. And so since 2010, we have really shifted into that is the foundation of our culture. That every single person here, you always ask, why does a customer come in and want to talk to the owner?
Yeah.
There's a reason,
because they're
right?
the decision maker, right? They know that they can make a decision. Yeah. I only want to talk to decision makers. Yeah.
And you think they're going to take an extra level of care, right? That they're going to want to make sure you do business with them and that you're taking
fully bought in. Yeah. Fully bought in.
That was our shift, was we didn't want it to just be a retirement plan. It was about building a community of people who everybody is an owner, thinks like an owner, treats every customer like an owner, and really has that extra ... on their job description, because owners don't leave at 5 o'clock and clock out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And in this next generation, Liza, have you seen a shift to sort of embracing that mentality a little bit more? I think this younger generation wants to be part of something. They want to make a difference. They want to have an impact. They want to give back in meaningful ways. And I would think having ownership and being able to make decisions that move towards being a force for good in communities, that probably means a lot to your younger workforce as well as the older.
Yeah, it's interesting you put it that way. There has definitely been a rise in entrepreneur spirit, I think, in this next generation. They don't want to just come somewhere and clock in and clock out. They do want to be inspired, and they want to feel like they have ownership. And so one of the things that we talk about in our new hire orientation with everybody is that they are getting the benefit of being an owner, but they're sharing in that ownership. So they're not the only one leaving at night, turning off that light and going home with 100% of the responsibility on their shoulders. You go start your own business. That's what you feel like every single day. And we kind of share with them from day one. You get to share in the ownership and you share in the responsibility. We all have some of that responsibility on our shoulders every night. We're going to share in the responsibility. We're going to share in the success. We're going to share in the profits. And so they get to have that feeling of purpose and ownership without having the sole responsibility beyond them.
Yeah. Well, that's what a great strategy to go to business. What a great way to create a community that's fully bought off in your company's vision. So I was going to ask, how's biz? But maybe as part of that, tell us a little bit about your recent acquisition. So how's Automotive?
Yes.
And then tell us about the acquisition.
Well, first, just a quick blip about kind of where business is. I will admit that October was a tougher month for us, for sure. Now, being in Virginia and now in Maryland and on the edge of West Virginia, we surround Washington, D.C. in many ways. And the government shut down. I don't like to ever say it's an excuse. We don't say that, but I do think that it impacted us a little bit short term. We will bounce back from that, but there has been a feeling, we've heard it in our showrooms in a way that we really haven't heard something significant such as this in the last, several years. So that's one little piece. We had a somewhat tough October, but we will bounce back. In the midst of that October, we did welcome 2 new dealerships to Carter Myers Automotive. We just bought a Toyota store and a Hyundai store in Lexington Park, Maryland. It's our first
great
time
brands.
in Maryland. Great brands. And we're building a Honda store in Open Point just up the street from those 2 stores. So we will have those 3, I think, strong anchor brands in the market. And it was our first time in the state of Maryland. So adding a new state brought new complexities to closing an acquisition. But the dealer and his partner who chose to sell to us were extremely wonderful to work with. They were at the end of their career. They wanted to find a group that they felt would continue their legacy. They felt strongly about making sure their team was taken care of and that their reputation in the market would be not only maintained, but maybe even grown further for the future. So yeah, it's been a pretty crazy last month.
So what was the calculus of making the decision to acquire those 2 points in particular? Was it a desire to grow into a specific geography? Was it just a match in terms of the organization? As you considered that, what made you say, hey, we will buy and acquire these stores?
It's a good question, because I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, has been a lot of opportunity the last couple of years for every dealer group to expand and grow. I would say we've said no way more often than we've said yes. For us, there's a certain type of market that we look for. We are not the type of group that's going to look to buy a major metro store in Washington, D.C. There are plenty of others that are excited to buy those. That doesn't fit our culture. We like to be in smaller to medium-sized communities. We think that our culture thrives there. And so Lexington Park, how that came to be was Honda gave us an open point there a couple years ago. It's taken us a little while to get the building up and built, longer than we would ever like. We should be open by now. And we very intentionally look to have 3 to 5 dealerships per market. We believe that gives our team career growth opportunities where they don't have to relocate. It also gives us scale around used cars, around marketing, around accounting, reconditioning. Lots of efficiencies come when you've got multiple stores in a market. So once we got the Honda open point, we immediately went into the mode, okay, what is the next couple of stores that we can buy in that market so that we can round out a campus and community for CMA in Lexington Park, Maryland? And of course, Toyota and Hyundai are 2 brands that we were top of our list.
So Liza, I'm super curious. Honda granted an open point. For our audience that's asking the question, how on earth do you get a Honda open point? How does that work? What goes into that?
Well, it was an over 2-year process. And Honda, like most of the manufacturers, don't want to have many open points. They look at throughput. Yeah. They make sure that they're not adding so many points that their dealers can't have a good return on their investment, right? So they're very thoughtful before
they're disciplined.
They point.
Yeah.
Very disciplined. And if you look at Southern Maryland, where this point was, there are 2 Toyota stores. All the domestics are there. Nissan is there. Of course, Hyundai was there. And Honda did not have a presence. And so we applied. Honda had actually 4 open points on the East Coast. And they had brought them to us and asked if we'd be interested in applying for all of them. We said no. We were interested in Lexington Park and one other one. So we ended up, after 2 years of a process. Now, COVID was in the middle of that process. We actually went and presented to Honda on March 5th, 2020.
Oh my goodness. Just as everything was shutting down. Yeah.
That was our final presentation. We thought we would have an answer in like a month or 2, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
COVID hits. Honda closes the Mid-Atlantic region. It consolidates into New Jersey. A year later, we have to start the whole process over again. So we went through that process with the New Jersey office, and ultimately we're given the opportunity to represent Honda in the Lexington Park, Maryland market. And for those of you who haven't gone through that process, it's always funny to see which other dealers who were going for it bought up all the property in the market, bought the web addresses. And now you're trying to, after the fact, go like, well, we need to buy that website from you. And we know you got a LOI on that piece of property. What will you take for it? So you're always putting the puzzle pieces back together.
Oh, that's a fun exercise, actually. So were there any, are you comfortable sharing, were there any disputes where maybe a dealer who didn't get it felt a little jaded and wouldn't give up the property or the licensed assets or anything else? Or is it fairly friendly?
Well, in this particular one, it was very friendly. And
Good.
But there was another point that we had gone after that somebody else got, that I did hear there were some disputes. People were not giving up the land and were trying to shut them out. So always interesting to watch from the sidelines. Not as much fun when you're in the middle of it.
Well, we appreciate you giving us a little bit of a view behind those scenes, because I know it is a fascinating process, and it can go well, or it can become very contentious, and it can turn litigious too in some cases, depending on how people feel on the other side of it. So congratulations to you and all your associates on that acquisition. I am curious, you mentioned the government shutdown back a little bit ago. It's on many people's minds. If you've traveled recently, gone through TSA, if you've had any involvement or engagement, you're impacted. You're more so because of the footprint of the auto group, and you mentioned having been impacted in sales a little bit, the little rebound. What message would you give to the government about getting reopened and the necessity of it? Or hey, do you just see this as a long-term play and it'll just play out eventually?
If the government would listen to me, I would be happy to craft a message.
They're listening right now.
Trump watches our show, so he'll take whatever advice you have.
Well, the scary thing to me, and I was doing a lot of reading this weekend, is I did not see a clear path that anybody has laid out for how the government is going to end the shutdown.
Yeah.
And, we have a couple of dealerships that are in strong military communities. We have another one that has a really strong defense contractor community business here just north of Charlottesville. And then we are far enough out from Washington, D.C. that you wouldn't think it impacts us, but we do have a lot of people that commute even from the Winchester, Martinsburg area into D.C. And so while I understand that the government, each side has certain specific issues that they are trying to hold strong on and putting us in this shutdown, I would love for them to take an opportunity to talk to individuals about how this is impacting their lives. And that no one issue is more important than the families that live here in America that need to be able to put food on the table, that need to be able to plan accordingly. We've got the holidays coming up, and to have families not even knowing whether they're going to be able to really celebrate and participate this holiday season, whether they're going to be getting a paycheck, it's just it's not the way our country was set up, and it's not the way that I think our government themselves would want to live if they weren't getting a paycheck.
They got to take a page out of Automotive. I mean, think about this. If that happened in a dealership, people wouldn't go home until everything was resolved, right? We wouldn't shut the doors. It's unheard of what's happening. We talk about when we're looking for future leaders in automotive and probably in every other industry, one of the key things that we always look for is we look for people who have the confidence to know that anything that's thrown at them, that they can find a solution. We want solution seekers. We don't want people bringing their problems to us. We want them bringing solutions. And I'm just not seeing that the government leaders are bringing solutions to the table. And then we also look for people with courage. You got to make quick decisions with the information that you're given and the impact of them. And we're not seeing that right now in our government leaders either.
Yeah. So a call for courage, a call for decisiveness, and a call for action, be quick to execution. All right. There's so much more we still want to talk to you about, but I want to go back to today's news on one other item. So you have a Honda store. There's this big dispute going on right now between Nexperia and the Dutch-based supplier in China. Seems like Trump might have gone over and made inroads to solving that. How does something like that impact and affect you and your business? Honda's already talked about their idling production on one of their plants in Mexico due to the chip shortage. And what's your take on that as far as fixing that in the world, Liza?
Yeah, so I'm going to be a little bit careful. I am on the dealer advisory board for Honda, and so I want to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn or sharing anything that was in confidence. Yeah. It has been a concern for our industry now for a while, right? I think you even mentioned it in the intro that single source is not a good solution in any industry or for any particular component that's that key to our product. Yeah. If I was smart enough to have a solution, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But what I will say is I have watched some of the decisions that I'm watching the leaders at Honda make, understanding the impact on both the consumer and the dealer body if production is too far impacted from this, and where they're making shifts and how they're trying to be as flexible as possible as they're getting new information every single day. When we talk about leadership, I'm seeing that at Honda right now. They're also, being very thoughtful to understanding how this is impacting their competitors. And I think more so than others, Honda is being very transparent and communicative with dealers so that we can plan accordingly. I'm not sure where everybody else is, if they're just holding their cards really close to the vest. But it's great to have a dealer partner who is making sure that we can all prepare together and offer solutions together. And I applaud for that.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I think some manufacturers during COVID learned this lesson a little bit. Some went ahead and produced anyway and put chips in later, which probably led to higher recall frequency. And others expressed discipline. And Honda, I think, did that discipline. I think Toyota, Subaru, and some other OEMs were very disciplined in how they executed on it. So I agree 100% with you. All right. I want to go into CDG circles. You and I are part of the same circle. I want to talk a little bit about what that's meant to you, having kind of a thought group to be able to go to and get ideas from. But before I go to that, I just want You're over so many rooftops. You're in geographically a very important area in the United States for sales, for automotive, and everything else. And what's a signal or what's an indicator in the marketplace that you see that maybe not all dealers are looking for or watching or paying attention to that you're acting on today that others in November of 2025 might learn from, Liza?
You know, I'm not sure exactly what other dealers have started to look at.
Yeah.
When I think about, so we do a Tuesday call with all of our leaders, and it's really just a quick hit. What's happening in the marketplace? What are those things that you are looking at now that you might not have looked at 2 weeks ago that you can share with our other general managers, et cetera? And some of the things that I'm hearing from our team, I mean, we've always looked at the same metrics, right? We're looking at website traffic, we're looking at internet leads, and we're looking at conversions. And certainly in our service department, we're looking at is number of ROs growing, dollars per repair order, those sorts of things. But there's two areas that we focused on a little bit more lately. One, I think we had gotten so focused on internet leads and conversions that at times we were taking our eye off of making sure we understood our phone traffic and our walk-in traffic.
Ooh, yes.
And so while we still want to look at internet, we are now focusing more on total opportunities than just what's coming in online. I think we've gotten a little bit sidetracked there. And then the other thing that we talk a lot about conversions, but we didn't used to analyze as much the customers who come in, who we get all the way to the finish line, but we can't actually get the deal put together. Whether the negative equity prohibits us from getting it together, whether we don't have the right car for them, whether they don't have enough of a down payment, et cetera. And so we're starting to look now at actually the customers that we're not selling more than we have been previously. What is prohibiting us from getting that deal done? Do we have the right lenders? You mentioned getting fewer and deeper with your lender relations.
Yes, we believe in that.
That was a focus for us too. But then every once in a while, we're like, okay, is there a lender that has something unique that we don't have in our current lender group that could help us get those extra couple dozen deals done that we're right now seeing put on hold? So I think that's one thing that we're looking at now that we weren't as much before, analyzing what is the reason that a certain deal is not getting done, and are there any trends there that we can learn from?
So going back to the walk-in and the phone traffic, is there any technology that you're utilizing to better track that? Is there a process that you've implemented that helps you follow that thread?
One of the things that we're doing for phone traffic is we were a beta dealer for Prompt Path. And I'm not one for saying a tool fixes things. I don't think it fixes things, but we were looking at it more as a training partner. But it's interesting what it's done in using AI to connect on every single incoming phone call. We realized we were getting about 40% more incoming phone leads than what we were putting into our CRM. The way people were marking them, and this tool has allowed us to see there was more opportunity there than actually what we even knew. Yeah. So I would say that's one. Prompt Path has been a great partner for us to really understand that I think we've been missing the boat, not paying attention enough to the seriousness and the number of phone leads that we're actually getting. And then having them as a training partner, we train a lot on how to respond with both quality and timeliness on our internet leads. And we train a lot in person role playing and phone leads. In fact, talking about the circles that we're in, Sam, there was a conversation about where we need training.
Yes.
Phone training has always been top of our list, and something that I don't think we have ever we have not tackled it in a sustainable way. We do it, we train everybody up, and then we find out 6 months later that we're still terrible on the phones.
So Liza, that's an interesting conversation that you and I followed in the circles. And it's like, hey, who's training what? Who are they using to train? And phone training, to your point, an older generation such as ourselves, we were used to that thing wired to the wall. We knew how to talk to people on the phone. You probably even stayed up late talking to somebody on the phone. Now there's not that. And so it logically makes sense that training on the phone is super important, but it also makes sense that, where do you go to get that? So maybe transition into that, Liza, this 20 group conversation that we're in. Tell everybody what it is. What's the benefit of it? Like how do you see that working in the world today? The CDG circles.
Yeah, the CDG circles. First, I was very intrigued when I first heard about it and got the invite, and very honored to be. I think that the group that we are in is
Pretty
gosh,
cool.
and I'm using the word honored again. Some incredible thought leaders in that group. Many of us participate in person in 20 groups. We are in all kinds of different industry conferences. What I really like about the CDG Circle is that if you have an immediate question that you want to pop in there and get some feedback on, or if you're looking at a certain, that particular question was about training. We've had questions about everything from reinsurance to what's happening on the Stellantis Dealer Council and everything in between.
And Nissan.
It's very quick feedback. My only challenge has been, Sam, is there's so much conversation in it that if the day of meetings or somewhere, I look back and there's like 120 messages I need to catch up on.
So Liza, what Yossi's doing is he's creating an AI generated recap. And I think on a regular basis, he's going to pop that back out so that, because I'm with you, like I don't have enough time to go through it all. What I'll do is I'll see the conversation happen. And when I see something that really applies to something I'm working on right now, I'll jump in and engage. But a lot of it kind of unfolds, and then it's interesting to go back after the fact, get the key takeaways. And then to your point, it's interesting. We used to go to meetings once a year, and then it's once a quarter, and then we like to listen to programs daily or once a week. In our industry, Liza, it's all about speed to execution and taking information, and that's the differentiator, Liza, right?
Absolutely. And I think in those conversations too, sometimes I will scroll back up and it might have been from 3 hours ago, but I'm like, oh, I actually have something I would love to share or ask at this point, but people have moved on.
Yeah.
Also, I've had some really good one-off conversations with people in that group where you can see that somebody has some good information or is passionate about a certain topic. Might be 4 days ago. And then we'll set up a separate little text chain and go deeper on it. And I think that's extremely valuable in the relationships that Yossi has helped us create within that group.
Yeah. So not as an ad piece, but just to let everybody out there know, I think the current CDG Circles groups are open. The applications are for the next 30 days. It'll close, and then it will be closed off for Q1 2026. Are we going into 26? Oh my
2026,
yeah.
It's still like 54 days or something like that.
Oh, that's insane. It'll be closed off for Q1 2026. Everybody will have the interactions they have, and then it'll reshuffle and re-begin Q2. So if you want to get involved, engaged, now's a good time to do that as well. But thank you for sharing your perspectives, Liza, on the things that you're looking at. I think it is so interesting in our industry how so much of what we do takes us back to the basics, the blocking and tackling, the X's and O's, and just training on those good old basic things, right down from close rate to phone traffic to walk-in traffic to the different ways you're thinking about things.
Sam,
I'm inspired by that.
There's this fine line that we have as leaders to figure out how do we be innovative and progressive and bringing new ideas while also not getting so caught up in that we forget that it's the basics that are our foundation that we cannot ever let fail. They've got to be disciplined, sustainable, consistent, and then we can layer some innovation on top of that, but we can't always be looking for that next new thing. And all of us in this industry have that challenge or even really just that opportunity every day.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you so much for being with us today. Liza Borches. And by the way, am I saying that right, Liza? Borches. I apologize. Borches. Okay.
When I got married, I had no idea how difficult that last name would be.
All right. Borches. What is it? Where is it?
I think it was German and they used to say Borches. And then it evolved over the years and it kind of rhymes with Porsches. So we're like,
there you go.
Porsches.
I love it. I mentioned you in the very beginning when in the green room before we came in here. I got to actually be a part of your group for a week or two. I worked for a Swiss-based insurance company. We came in and kicked off the relationship with them across your group. And I'll tell you what, when you talk about employee-led and employee-owned, it's fun to see how when employees take ownership of something, the culture that ends up resulting. And the culture in your organization is elite. It was awesome to be a part of it. It was great to meet you all those years back then. I mean, almost a decade now, or maybe even a little more. And we just appreciate you being on the show. President and CEO, Carter Myers Automotive, Liza Borches. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It was actually a heck of a lot of fun. They're super close to University of Virginia, I want to say. So we got to go through and see the campus. We got to check out a little bit of football. And the tenure in that automotive group is cool too. That was something that struck me. A lot of employees that have been around for a long time, and they love what they do. All right, Yuli, let's talk CR Stream. Hey, dealers, put the power of multiple auctions in your hand. Use CR Stream to sell vehicles on multiple online auctions fast. You only pay a $150 flat sell fee to the auction. That's it. Register at crstream.com today, or you can click the QR code to my side there. Also, if you're listening on the podcast, you can go into the podcast notes and pick it up there. Props to CR Stream for sponsoring today's content and that incredible conversation with Liza, hearing about their growth, hearing about the things that they're working on, and her take on all things automotive and auto industry. So CR Stream, thank you for sponsoring today's show. And also for anybody wanting to get involved in the circles, CDG circles, you can go into the show notes today, click the link there as well, and sign up. As I mentioned, I think it's about 30 days left to get in on the Q1 2026 group, and then that will be closed. And you know what? Let's remind everybody too, Yuli, our second annual NADA party for car dealership guys coming up. It's happening in Las Vegas this year on Thursday, February 5th. It is the hottest ticket at NADA 2026 with special guests and top automotive personalities. To be considered for a formal invite, just hit the link in the show notes, request to join, and fill out a questionnaire. Spots are limited, and unfortunately, because of the location, the venue, we can't invite everyone. So RSVP today, and we hope to see you in Vegas.
It's going to be a great time.
You know what's cool about the tradition we all have created here, and we're a part of this. Everybody watching today is a part of this. We've created a tradition of having conversations that are meaningful, that are impactful, that change the way we think about automotive. And by the way, we ask some of the toughest questions in all of automotive on this show, and our ability to ask those tough questions, that is going to determine the future of automotive. And so I'm excited to be in that room because I think there's going to be a lot of great people having great conversations at NADA, both CDG circles, and then we're going to continue our shtick and our spiel here on the show, Yuli. And it's awesome to have you here. So go ahead, Yuli.
I love being here, and I love that you're here as well. You remember what they said at NADA? It was always the power. It was the power of the room. It's that networking like Liza is talking about. So CDG Circles gives you that at your fingertips. And now we have this platform as well to kind of continue to connect. And we'll be doing that in person at NADA.
Did you catch that I just kicked my mic and I caught it? That was very
impressive.
All right, let's turn now to Digital Operations Manager at Ghia Automotive Companies, Jake Hales. Jake, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
What's up, Jake?
Hey,
welcome.
Good to see you guys.
So, Jake, before we get into what we have our signature question, which is, how's biz? Why don't you give us a little overview, some background, who you are, what you do, and my show notes here say you got a pretty large group. So, give us some context there.
Yeah. So, I've been in the business for 25 years, and I can't believe I'm saying that, because that means I'm old. So
25 years.
Fun club. Yeah. Sold my first car in 99.
Nice.
Yeah.
What brand was it? Well, you got to tell us that.
Oh my gosh. It was a Chrysler's Sebring. I remember it was convertible. So it was a fun car to sell, but I'm really glad I knew nothing about the business at that time, because that was a tough brand to sell at the time.
I love it.
But anyway, stayed in retail for roughly 5 years or so, and then spent 11 years with Cox Automotive on the Auto Trader Kelly Blue Book side, and then
I
did some time with Shift Digital, and then came back to the retail space, joining the Ghia Automotive Companies about 5 years ago.
And the Ghia Automotive, how many stores do you guys have?
We're up to 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
40. Yeah. So strong group. So you oversee digital strategy and software integration across all 40 rooftops. What's that look like? You had mentioned before the show started that you've been involved in the implementation of all of the software across everything. So I would imagine your head is spinning multiple times a year. Walk us through, the day to day, what are people missing in 2025, November of 2025 now, can't believe it's November already. What are people missing when they're shopping for new solutions out there?
I don't know. I don't know how much the dealerships are missing. I think to some degree, dealerships are doing a pretty good job of researching the vendors these days. I talk in many of these forums, and there's good conversations. I actually think the vendors are missing a lot,
Fair.
and have a lot of opportunity to actually find us solutions we need, as opposed to just going into the whiteboard room and saying, "Hey, we're going to make something up."
Do you want to buy it?
Right.
So,
right.
So when you talk about products people need, go there with me. Lead volumes are up in many markets, and we've been told close rates are down. What's happening? Where are dealers failing in November of 2025 when it comes to the handoff? What's up with that trend?
Well, it's like what Liza was talking about. We forget about going back to the basics and understanding, are our customers getting connected on the phone? Are our salespeople able to speak fluently on the phone and do the request for the invite? So some of that basic blocking and tackling, which I remember being part of my day first joining the dealership. We did an hour of role playing and phone training before we got on the phone for the rest of the day calling customers. And one of the impacts of the COVID supply chain issues, and I hope we don't see those kind of supply chain issues again, but
it's building.
It is.
It's building.
It's coming. It could potentially come back again, but it really generated poor habits. And now we've spent the better part of the last 2.5 years trying to get back to a professional sales style that kind of went away. And so that's where we have to focus our energies. And as far as, you add this AI layer on top of it, you have to wonder if that's helping or hurting our bad habits.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's something that I really am trying to get a grip on in our organization.
Well, you mentioned kind of blocking and tackling. So that's evolved over the years, but that bottom piece of the funnel, if you want to visualize it with me, is still going to be either an in-person customer or that phone call, right? So we used to mail pieces to customers, and then it turned to email pieces.
Yeah.
Now it's text message, but the goal of all of these touch points end up being either get in front of me in person, or let's get on the phone so we can hash it out. So I think what you're saying and what Liza said before is so true. We've lost sight of this last piece, which is that ultimate conversion into get in front of me so I can sell you a car. Now, that being said, you've been heavily involved in cultivating a video-driven culture. So there's a big digital component. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, and it took me a while to figure out how to deliver that at scale at this many dealerships. But ultimately, it comes down to what are the best ways to communicate with customers when so much of the traffic is going to spam, whether it be text messaging, 10 DLC regulation governed really by the carriers. Outbound phone calls are a challenge, and even text messaging is a challenge to get in people's inboxes. And then email, email's been a joke for 15 years. So, how do you get the customer's attention in this space that's dominated by AI and spam? Well, that's to do a personalized video and invite the customer to the store. And once you get the salespeople and the sales managers to understand that customers want to know that you're real with a real car, they start to understand, oh, this is in fact the best way to communicate with the customer today. And then they start doing it.
For sure. Now, do you have a before and after? Did you start measuring the results as you implemented these processes, and kind of walk us through what has worked and what hasn't worked for, our listeners that are looking to do the same?
Yeah. So there is a measurable difference. Generally speaking, I measure this each quarter, and I've measured this for each quarter for about 4 years now. And it's roughly a 30% increase in close rate when you apply video. And then there is usually a gross increase too. more often on the back end these days than the front end. So when I first started measuring it, you could see a $1,000 gross increase on the front end. Wow. Now, usually that $1,000 gross increase is actually on the back end. Because you're generating trust, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, there's quarterly opportunity there at a group our size for like $3 million of revenue growth per quarter when you start scaling that out.
Is there a particular technology or tool you're using to deliver that consistently? The video, not only the tech to produce the video, but also the training that backs it up to get that lift?
Yeah, training we have to do internally with our great corporate training team. I do a lot of it one-on-one and classroom training in the store. So there's a lot of training to do with that. And then, of course, our sales managers and general managers have to do that on the day-to-day, right? So it's a lot of training to get it done. It takes a lot of management because otherwise you're going to get talking heads at desks, which customers aren't interested in. You have to have
yeah. So does the video integrate with your CRM? Is that the major? Correct. And who do you use on the CRM side?
We use DriveCentric across the board.
Okay. And then does DriveCentric generate the video and send it out, or is there a bolt-in tool that does the video?
It's not bolt-in. It's part of their construction of their CRM was that they were inclusive of text message and video in their application and built the CRM around that. So it's very easy to use. And one of the reasons we went with them was for that ease of use.
So then I would assume that there's not a silo in this instance that you need to break into, right? I mean, it seems like a pretty cohesive solution.
Yeah, it's a very cohesive solution. It simplifies the process. The salespeople aren't leaving the app to go to another app. And the history of video in car dealerships, that was the case for most of the last, 15, 20 years.
So Jake, you're getting a ton of props online. Sean Hopper popped into the comments, says Jake knows what he's talking about, representing the PNW Pacific Northwest. Mike Sack says, be responsive, be transparent, be authentic, listen to needs, pivot to communicating honestly with the customer in the channel. They choose being in full caps to want to negotiate and to do business. Are there ways, to Mike's point, that you're pivoting to the channel that the customer chooses as part of your process?
Yeah, I think we have to. And that's oftentimes what I tell my salespeople is like, look, we're doing video because it works. Yeah. And the day it stops working, guess what? We'll stop doing video.
Yeah. Or you'll pivot to the next thing, or you'll innovate to the next thing. Yeah.
That's exactly. And we don't know exactly what that is yet. I mean,
so Jake, are your salespeople creating the video, or are they canned videos, or salespeople?
My experience, and we've studied it, canned video does not work.
Yeah.
So you're doing personalized video each time.
You have to. You have to, because customers aren't interested in more ads. They're interested in a human that's showing them the car.
Are you doing anything with like Sora or any of these AI video generating tools, or are you just point and click with the iPhone or your personal cell phone?
I think there's some ways to do some enhancement of your video using the AI, but I'm using a lot of AI right now. I'm really studying it hard. I'm trying to figure out how to integrate it into our stores. And what I'm learning is that it's pretty canned, to use that same word, unless you go in and customize it to a large degree and make it unique to yourself as a content producer and to your customer who's your target. You have to build around that. So I think there's ways to use AI to enhance that and simplify things. Yeah. On the flip side, there's nothing better than a car guy with a smile, a good sense of humor, and a lot of transparency. To Mike's
and actually to Mike's coming back in the comments again, he says, unbelievable how so many let technology compensate for the human touch. Auto retail is and always has been about relationships. Trust, sure, use tech to enable, but hire, and then it cuts off into nothing. He probably was lost in his thoughts and it went into the second, but it's a fair point, right? You can't allow tech to overcompensate. And I actually have a next interesting question, again, going back to kind of how leads right now, it seems, are converting less in many groups. If you walked into a store tomorrow and you wanted to improve digital sales performance fast in that store, aside from video, you've given us that. What's one metric or one area that you're going to focus on in that store to get better digital lead production out of that store? Given your background, you got a ton of background. You've worked for Cox. You work in this enormous group with all these OEMs. What would you do, Jake?
It's going to be the phones. I mean, Liza brought it up too, and she's not wrong. I mean, the phones tend to be a whiff. And Uli, you brought up a great point that I completely love, which is the texting conversation is not there to close as a texting conversation. It's there to lead you to a phone conversation. Because we know the best way to garner appointment is via a phone conversation.
Yeah, you need that emotion. You need that back and forth. Absolutely.
So Yuli and Jake, walk me through. We have that web experience. Let's say the web experience transitions into a texting experience, right? Or a chat online. And then that online transitions into an in-dealership test drive or brick and mortar experience. Or maybe they make a purchase commitment and then it transitions. In your experience, Jake, where's it broken the most? What's broken? What's the most disjointed step in that process when we talk about converting from initial web experience into I'm driving a car and buying it today?
It's been broken for a long time. And I think there's a lot of, even OEMs have tried to step into this space and fix the break. The break is that we try to treat every customer the same way when they walk into the door, instead of understanding that the customer might have already constructed their own deal before they ever came in.
Yeah, we ask them to redo stuff, right? You can't do that in today's day. Yeah.
And the customer is just blindsided by that. They feel like, wow, these guys must be stupid because we just spent 2 hours talking online.
Yeah. What's the fix, Jake?
In my opinion, the deal has to be desked in the CRM before the customer arrives. So that's the break. And so there's a lot of tools out there in the digital retailing space. The question is, did that information get to a place where the sales manager doesn't have to log out of their desking software to look at the deal that the customer built? And then if the sales manager is aware that we got a deal coming, we're going to do a test drive on it. They did all this work online, and then we can communicate that with the sales person. Then we can create a seamless experience. But we're not there yet. I think we'll be there very soon. And that's where AI comes in, because AI isn't going to be there to talk with the customers. We've been doing that a long time. We don't really care about it. What we care about is those complicated integrations that are really hard to fix. And using AI to streamline that's what's going to get us to the vision of a seamless experience.
So you've studied a lot of these different tools. You've looked at how they apply. In a lot of cases, you've said yourself, hey, we're focusing on training and executing rather than implementing a lot of these yet. If you look a year or two down the road, where do you think AI and technology will most disrupt this space in the next couple of years?
It's going to seem like maybe a weird way to answer this, but in code. AI is fantastic at coding and helping you find ideas how to code and quick fixes for manipulating the user experience. And so what I think is going to happen, where we've had a kind of a light competitive space in the DMS and the CRM space, I think players are going to come along and they're going to design this thing from AI at scratch and come on and just blow out everybody, because maybe they started their products way too early and haven't kept up, but I think if you start building using AI from the ground up, these softwares that are designed for great user experiences and customer experiences, you could really compete in this space.
Okay, so I want to come back to a comment from Mike, but before we do that, I just want to ask you a question. A lot of groups don't have the position that you have right now, which is digital operations manager. It's a newer role within auto groups. What is the future of your position? And what would you say to a dealer group that's weighing, hey, do I really need this? Is it a valuable position in today's world? November 2025, how do I think about digital operations manager, Jake?
You need to have somebody that can bridge the silos.
Yeah, bring it all together.
That's right, because one of the reasons I got to where I am is I learned how to speak IT. Okay, and your average sales manager, service manager, general manager
is desking deals. No,
they're desking deals. They're not speaking IT, which is a different language. You actually have to learn a different language. So a lot of what I do, having been on both sides, is I can communicate effectively with engineers, vendors, IT people, and start to bridge those gaps. And so overcoming those silos that occur in our business is one of the main reasons to have a role like mine in your auto group.
All right. So it's interesting. Mike Sachs says online, there are guys online who are flooding Instagram and Facebook with snapshots of talking to customers, encouraging them to avoid the dealerships and work with them to avoid the pain of a in-dealership experience, I would suppose. Are you seeing that? And do you have a take on that trend? Is it a trend?
Yeah. I think it's a trend. I think we can watch customer experiences, customers that are viewing that information and they're taking that information to heart, and they're asking, for a large completion of the deal to occur outside of the dealership. And one of the counter arguments that really isn't out there yet is some of the fraud that we deal with.
Yeah.
So your average customer might not understand that they're behaving in a way that fraud behaves. And so we have to be careful of not transacting on deals that's going to be a security risk for us or a fraud risk for us.
Yeah.
Some of the behaviors that these influencers are suggesting really match the fraudulent behavior. So it actually makes it a lot more challenging on the dealership. Now, we want to transact the way the customer wants to transact, but we also have compliance to follow. With the OEMs, we have government regulation we have to follow.
Yep.
So, just saying, hey, you can do this without a dealership is a little bit of an oversimplification on the part.
All right.
Just a little bit.
All right, Jake, I've got a lightning round question for you. The producers are going to kill me because anytime I ask a deep question before we're done, this will be our last one. Right. Lauren Klein asks a great question. I don't know if you saw our pricing strategy session we did as a roundtable, whether conventional or one price. Lauren Klein says, do you think implementing a one price sales model would support or limit a dealer's digital retail strategy? Are you one price, and are you pro or anti it on executing on your digital strategy in 15 seconds or less? How about that?
Holy cow, that ain't going to happen. What I will say is that I like it, but it is deeply process driven. So if you don't have the staff, the strategy, the support from the top on down to get this thing done, it's really hard to do. But I have consulted with dealers that do it and have done a great job with it. And I think overall it can support the mission.
Well, Jake Hales, Digital Operations Manager at Gee Automotive's group, the digital mastermind of the Pacific Northwest. Thanks for joining the show today, sharing your perspectives, and we appreciate you sharing your ideas. Thanks.
That was a good time.
Thanks, Jake.
Fascinating that we keep coming back to video, Yuli. We keep coming back to video. It's like, let's create a video. Let's share it with the customer. Let's learn to communicate well. He's done it. It's increasing his conversion rate and his sales rate. And it's one of those simple ideas that isn't impossible to do. It just requires some training and some execution. And obviously, you've got to have tools behind you in your CRM, your DMS, to be able to execute on that. But it's out there. It's everywhere. So what a great takeaway from today.
Yeah, I've been saying it to sales teams for decades. We all sell the same cars. How can you personalize the experience? And in 2025, video is just another way you can stand out from the crowd. So simple.
It's the difference maker. Well,
and mustaches.
Yeah, well, I'm not convinced yet. We'll see. We'll see about that. But
Wednesday, we'll see you with a mustache.
Well, we'll see. It might be a tape on or something like that. But thanks to Liza for joining us. Thanks to Jake for joining us. And to you, our loyal Daily Dealer Live audience, thanks for joining the Daily Dealer Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, we're live here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Next up this Wednesday. So if this is your world, hit like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never ever miss a beat. And we'll see you next episode, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.